Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, folks, we've got a plethora of news to cover, some highlights from the weekend, a lot of stories from today. Times are truly crazy. It's hard enough just trying to figure out everything that's going on, but then to try to tie it all together is one of the serious challenges that we embark on here at Infowars every day. So that's what we're going to try to do for you tonight. Now, you probably heard about the firebombing attack in North Carolina over the weekend. Governor Pat McCrory said that this was an attack on our democracy, and he could not have said it any better. And this is what's going on right now, and we're seeing it with the election. It's been going on for a long time, but people are finally starting to see that there is truly a war with our democracy right now, and it's time for the republic to stand up, and we're starting to see that. Now, Donald Trump, of course, had to go to Twitter, and he blamed animals representing Hillary Clinton and Democrats in North Carolina. Now, Donald, I don't think we needed you to tweet that out, but we know that Donald likes to fire from the hip. He has no filter, and he went ahead and said that. And it turns out he might actually be right. We'll see what comes up with more WikiLeaks. We'll see what comes up with more from Project Veritas. But we do know that the Democratic Party is responsible for social unrest and promoting violence. Now, Clinton, her campaign tweeted out, the attack on Orange County headquarters in the North Carolina GOP office is horrific and unacceptable. Very grateful that everyone is safe. This is a total fraud, folks. We have caught them. They love inciting violence. They want to incite violence at Trump rallies. So nice try, Hillary Clinton, but we caught you red-handed thanks to Project Veritas. Now, Dallas Woodhouse, an executive director of the state GOP, called the bombing political terrorism. He said the only thing important to us is that nobody was killed. And that is something that seriously could have happened here, folks. Do you think that these people who were firebombing the headquarters even thought of that? I would guess that they didn't. They're not that bright. And he said, whether you are Republican, Democrat, or independent, all Americans should be outraged by this hate-filled and violent attack against our democracy. I'm not seeing too much outrage on the mainstream media. Everyone in this country should be free to express their political viewpoints without fear of their own safety. But unfortunately, in this election cycle, that's not the case if you like Donald Trump. A lot of people are afraid to even put a Trump sticker on their car because, well, we've seen what happens. Windows smashed in, tire slashed. Now, of course, CNN, they went ahead and they blamed this firebombing on Donald Trump as if, I mean, this is right out in 1984. I can't even believe that they would go this low. But CNN host Brian Stelter did blame, more or less, Donald Trump for this firebombing, of course, blaming his rhetoric. Now, of course, they wrote Nazi Republicans, get out of town or else. Hillary Clinton is funded by George Soros. We've actually got more ties with Clinton and Soros coming up tonight in the news. And then Stelter goes on, he says, we have no idea who has done this. We don't know if it's Republicans, Democrats, or a movement. Give me a break. We know exactly who did this. The people that your news outlet is triggering in the public. That's who did this. And really, you're going to blame Republicans? And then do you see how he inserts the word movement in there? That's also a way of trying to tie Donald Trump and his voters into this firebombing, because this is what the Trump movement really is. It is a movement, and Donald Trump has said that, and other people like Senator Sessions have said that. Now, you may have heard of Max Spears. You may not have heard of him. Personally, I had never heard of him, but he was a UFO conspiracy theorist who died under very suspicious circumstances, and the UK has refused to investigate his death. UK authorities will not investigate the circumstances surrounding the death of a British conspiracy theorist in Poland. Now, 2 days before he died, he was messaging his mother saying he was in trouble, and if anything happens to him, investigate. Friends of his said that he was vomiting black liquid and complaining of migraines for several days. So that's pretty wild. Again, I'd never heard of this guy before, but, you know, usually when they off someone, this does draw light to those individuals. Now, all of a sudden, I looked into his work, and we're going to have more on this actually later. But worth mentioning, suspicious death of a UFO conspiracy theorist, and they refuse to investigate. I don't know why you wouldn't investigate that, but I guess that's none of my business. Now, Joe Biden, we've done some reports on this. Joe Biden is essentially threatening Russia with cyber warfare. This is an unprecedented move for any government to threaten cyber warfare, but this is what Joe Biden has decided to do. And he suggested that the Obama administration may launch a retaliatory cyber strike against Russia in response to what Washington believes was interference by Moscow in this election. So this is actually crazy. We actually have the proof that the DNC is tampering with elections. We've caught them red-handed, but here's Joe Biden with no proof blaming Russia. And now we'll tie this up in a second, but more on Biden. He says, we have the capacity to do it. It will be at the time of our choosing and under circumstances that have the greatest impact. He is threatening Russia on television. And we're going to sit here and wonder if Donald Trump has the right temperament to be president when the vice president is threatening Russia on television. And then I don't know if this guy's very bright. When Biden was asked if the public would ever find out about the nature of the response, he said, hope not. Really? You're just talking about it on television, threatening Russia on television, and you're just hoping that this somehow remains secret. I guess this is him exposing how he feels about the American public, that they're so in the dark, they have no clue what's going on. They're so brainwashed that he can just do it right out in the middle of daylight and get away with it. Isn't that kind of what's been going on for a while now, though? And then he said their capacity to fundamentally alter the election is not what people think. And I tell you, to the extent that they do, we will be proportional in what we do. Again, threatening Russia and perhaps setting up a false flag. Now, this is something that Russia is responding to. Primetime host warns of secret plot. Putin-appointed Russian TV host Dmitry Kisilov asserts that the United States could stage a fake provocation to go to war with Russia and Syria. Now, you look at this, you say, okay, this guy's, he's been appointed by Putin. How should I trust him? But he does bring up good points, and he mentions the Vietnam War, which the United States staged the Gulf of Tonkin to instigate that. And he also mentioned how we have invaded Iraq and Libya under false pretenses. So he does actually make fair points. And, if you want to play nonpartisan here, you do have to take him for what he's saying. And it's noteworthy because this is a primetime television host in Russia that enjoys the largest audience among news programs in Russia. So where is our mainstream media, folks? What is our TV media talking about? They're up here warning about false flags, cyber terror, and war. And you know what we're talking about on the mainstream media? Excuse my French, but we're talking about grabbing pussy, okay? So there's the difference between Russia's media and ours. Take that for what it is. Now, does this have a link to Joe Biden's threat? Assange's internet link intentionally severed by state party. This is actually coming from WikiLeaks. RT has also wrote a story. WikiLeaks has activated contingency plans after its co-founder's internet service was intentionally cut off by a state actor, the media organization said in a tweet. So are there any ties to this and John Kerry's threat of cyber warfare? Is he colluding with Ecuador? Is he threatening Assange or people who are cooperating with Assange? We might actually have some evidence of that. This is a story out of the BBC, RT, NatWest to close Russian channels' UK bank accounts. So again, does this have ties to Kerry talking about cyber attacks? Could this be because RT broadcasts things that these banks don't like? Is this kind of a war of politics, geopolitics, economic politics going on here? The strange thing about it is, as of right now, RT is still waiting for a reason. So they just have their bank account shut down, and they are yet to even be given a reason for that. So that is something that is very strange. Now, here's another dynamic difference between the United States government and the Russian government. This is a story from Infowars.com. Kremlin insider, war might begin even before the United States elections, urging citizens to stockpile cans of food. They've been doing this for a while. And they also just had a drill with millions, I believe, of Russian state actors doing a drill for what they would do in a nuclear war. But Sergei Markov, a member of the Civic Chamber, a Moscow-based state institution, told the Daily Beast These are the most serious tensions between Moscow and Washington in decades. The war might begin before the November elections in the United States. So, our president is out golfing. He's smelling his hand as he's going to Hillary Clinton rallies. And, one of our presidential candidates is going unconscious at 9/11 events. But here's people coming from inside the Kremlin that are trying to warn people. He said, I personally plan to stock 200 cans of pork to be ready for a potential war crisis, and I advise everybody to do the same. Our government is certainly stockpiling. We know about that, but I don't really hear too much from our media or our government warning that we need to stockpile food. We need to be prepared for a war with Russia. It's just not happening. So will the mainstream media cover any of that? I doubt it. Will the mainstream media cover this? 1,000 more people shot in Chicago compared with this same time a year ago. 1,000 more people have been shot in Chicago this year compared with the same time last year. Now, will we see Black Lives Matter protests? Will we see any media covering this? I don't think so. But somehow, in a gun-free zone, we see plenty of guns. I wonder when logic will kick in on that nonsensical legislation. Now, folks, this might be the biggest thing that we are facing. This might be the biggest thing that we are dealing with, and it appears that Americans are finally starting to wake up to this. Poll from Politico, 41% of voters say election could be stolen from Donald Trump. This is a Politico Morning Consult poll conducted among almost 2,000 registered voters, October 13th through the 15th, shows that Trump repeated warnings about a rigged election are having effect. Yeah, it's not just Trump. We have WikiLeaks, we have Project Veritas, we've had dozens of independent investigations on this. We are very aware of how they rigged elections. 73% of Republicans think the election could be swiped from him. Just 17% of Democrats agree with the prospect of massive fraud at the ballot box. And how ironic is this? It's the Democrats that have been caught with election fraud, and it's the Democrats who are sitting here acting like it doesn't exist. It's a very interesting paradoxical logic to be a Democrat. I really don't understand. The public sentiment is beginning to reflect Trump's campaign message. Now, this is the power of Donald Trump, folks. This has been one of the things for me personally that I've been enjoying with the Donald Trump campaign is that he takes things that we have been trying to get in the mainstream for years and he forces them there. He forces them into the mainstream. And this is just another example. Now we've got, again, now states are starting to investigate allegations of voter fraud. This is happening in Texas. The Star-Telegram reports allegations of voter fraud in Tarrant County are under investigation by the state. And of course, we've got DHS and Joe Biden and everybody warning you that it's Russia that wants to hack our elections. It's Russia we need to be worried about. Now, this is on the heels of another report from last week that we covered. Voter fraud is real. Here's the real proof. We covered this, and it goes over it, how dead people are voting. Vote harvesting is going on. Look into that. That's unbelievable crime. So we already know this is going on, but they want to try to trick you into thinking that it's Russia so they can stage World War III with Russia. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Soros board member chairs firm running online voting for Tuesday's Utah caucuses. This is an older story, but this is George Soros with Lord Mark Malloch Brown using their electronic voting machines for Republican elections. Now, these are huge Democrat supporters, folks. Now, this is very important. Smartmatic, as we can see right here, is one of the biggest systems used for the United States elections. It has commissions of 307 counties in 16 different states. In 2006, Smartmatic signed what at the moment was the largest election automation contract in U.S. history. Now look at this. You want to tell me that these election machines are going to be fair? Mark Malloch Brown is a former member of two in the United Nations. I'm sorry, he's a former number 2 in the United Nations. He's also had positions including vice chairman of George Soros Investments Funds. He was with the George Soros Open Society Institute, vice president at the World Bank, lead international partner at Sawyer Miller, a political consulting firm, and he's also served as the vice chairman of the World Economic Forum. So the guy who runs Smartmatic, which runs the United States elections, has close ties with George Soros. George Soros has close ties with Hillary Clinton. We can see that George Soros is one of the biggest donors of the Clinton campaign. We have the WikiLeaks. She has a tight relation with Soros. She even goes to dinner with him. That just reeks of corruption. Anybody who's not concerned about electronic rigged voting machines is sleeping under a rock. Now, what's up with Bernie? Bernie is still campaigning for Clinton. I really don't understand this. Are his supporters still buying this? This could be a big thing that could swing the election, where Bernie's supporters go, but he really has made himself look like quite the fool. Now, here's something. Over 4,500 redaction in Hillary FBI documents. Folks, this is absurd. The FBI claims it's trying to be transparent. You go and you look at these redactions. Go ahead and look at these redactions, please, for me real quick. Some of them are whole pages. Some of them are whole pages redacted. It is absolutely absurd. But even in the stuff that's not redacted, we can see how people that Clinton has worked with do not like her at all. She is not fun to work with. Scientists are now creating eggs in a lab from scratch and producing healthy offspring. Humans grown in petri dishes. It's unbelievable. We'll be right back with more on the Infowars Nightly News. Ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday night is the biggest presidential debate in United States history, and we have full coverage for you at Infowars.com/show. We will have all our reporters on this desk, on another desk, behind the scenes, cutting up tape, analyzing what the two presidential nominees say. We will also have boots on the ground in Las Vegas, talking to people on the street, scoping the scenes, getting a feel for the atmosphere. We're going to have all of it for you on Infowars.com/show. So be sure, when you're thinking about where to go for the presidential debate on Wednesday night, remember that we will have live coverage for you at Infowars.com/show. The best coverage covering all angles, real fact-checking, moment by moment, with everyone from our talented team on the scene. And don't forget, of course, Alex Jones himself will be live, breaking down all the lies from Hillary, all the powerful comments from Trump, and everything in between, including the moderators. The best place for presidential coverage, the best place for debate coverage is Infowars.com/show. Be sure you're there on Wednesday night.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.